This top 8 race is shaping up to be one of the best of all time. Let's see what round 22 has in store. What's going on, guys? Your boy Bergs here from The Casual Athlete, back to hit you again with tips for round 22 this week. And I got to say, there were some great matchups over the weekend. We managed to get a nice 6 out of 8. But before I get into my video, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week just for you guys, whether it be fantasy, tipping, or general NRL content, whatever you want to watch, we definitely have it here for you. So hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. But let's take a quick snapshot of how I did on the weekend, guys. With the Warriors starting off on Friday night, got a nice 1-12 win there against the Tigers. Thought the Tigers were valiant in that game. They kept it close for quite a long period of time. Just the Warriors managed to get them in the end. The Storm easily did it in the end against the Eels. They made it tough on themselves, though, and a nice halftime spray from Bellamy surely had to get them over the line. And for the Broncos, man, it was one of the ones I got wrong this week. And I got to say, the Dogs surprised me. I said last week that the Dogs didn't have enough points in them to go with the Broncos, but watching that game, it was possibly my favourite game of the weekend. I did manage to watch every game this week, and I got to say, the Dogs were fantastic. Just throwing the ball around, razzle-dazzle. It was Hollywood football at its best, and I tell you what, the Broncos didn't have a complete answer for it at all. Cowboys getting the win 1-12, and I'm glad for us in the sense that we really went against a record here. We'd only won 1 out of our previous 15 regular season games against the Sharks and had not beat them at our new home ground up at North Queensland Country Bank Stadium. And for the Roosters, I definitely think they made this harder on themselves than it needed to be. 3 interceptions and really just gave the ball to Manly in crucial moments. Like, basically, at times when you're meant to be icing the game, they just handed it back on to Manly and said, you know what, let's get you guys a little bit closer. But they held off in the end and they ended up getting the victory. They can still score a lot of points and they are a massive threat. The Roosters, I'm just waiting to see whether they can beat the top teams in the competition. For Penrith getting the win, I thought it'd be a lot closer, but the Dragons just really didn't turn up at one of the stadiums that generally produces wins for them. Down in Wollongong, I thought the Panthers were excellent. Nathan Cleary, unbelievable hat-trick on his second game back from injury, and geez, they are once again looking like another threat to take on this premiership. Titans getting over the Dolphins, and last week I did say that the Dolphins are doing this thing where they like to fade off at this end of the season. They've only won 2 out of their previous 7 games coming into this, and they've lost another one. And the Titans, well, they hung in there. You know, they hung tough. I thought that they were definitely not the better team for about 50 or so minutes into that game. I think it was something like the Dolphins completed about 4 sets of 6 from the 45-minute mark to the 80-minute mark. Unbelievable stuff, and good on the Dolphins for getting a win there. And the Rabbitohs didn't get the win down at GIO Stadium. Got to give credit to the Raiders on that one. I thought Fogarty once again was outstanding, and he really led the line and provided a lot of attacking spark once again for the Raiders, who are getting difficult to tip, and it's a little bit of a hit and miss scenario with them, but hopefully they can go down to Belmore this week and put on a good show against the Dogs. And guys, let's just take a look at the tipping comp that we are running on NRLtipping.com this year. And Jay Fitz is in the first position on 108 points. Well done, Jeff. And Callum the Dark Knight is in second position, equal with Chris from North Sydney Bears as well. Guys, keep putting in your tips each and every week. I do update everyone in my videos. Let's keep going towards the end of the season. Love seeing people do well in their tipping comps. Hopefully you guys are winning your work, friends, family tipping comp, and you're not listening to me each and every week. All right, everybody, let's take a look at these juicy tips for round 22. The first game on Thursday night is out at Leichhardt, and it is one of my personal favourite matchups in the competition. We have the Tigers taking on the Cowboys, and last year, as we know, it was a tale of 2 very different fixtures. Down at Leichhardt, the Tigers beat the Cowboys 66-18, and the return fixture in North Queensland 5 weeks later, the Cowboys smashed the Tigers 74-0. Over the last 10 games between these two teams, it is split right down the middle, 5-5. And I've got to say, for the Cowboys, if they are going to be serious about making this top eight and being a threat in these finals, then they need to go down to Leichhardt and win this game. Not an easy place to go. The Tigers, it's their last game of the season at Leichhardt as well. They always turn up at Leichhardt. They did lose their last game there this season, but I just feel like they put on a little bit of extra effort, especially against the Cowboys, and it's a team that they know they can beat at Leichhardt and beat them well. Stafford Toa, I remember last year, giving Val Holmes an absolute bath, and the news during the week as well, it is a bit concerning for me in terms of Val Holmes specifically, because he has been told that he can go and negotiate with rival clubs. And I'm hearing a couple of rumors that it could be the Dragons. I know the Roosters have money and are in the market for a centre right now. I'm also hearing that he's only been told to go negotiate with rival clubs to test his market value and then renegotiate a contract with the Cowboys. So a lot going on there at this point in time. We also have Cotter and Taumalolo out for this game. Cotter with a severe head knock last week, and Taumalolo unfortunately looks like he may have broken his cheekbone, but we will wait to hear about scans on that. Helam Lukey should be back for this game, and that is a massive in for us. I love Funin Fuyaki, but he is moving on next year, and I want Lukey in that role each and every week. I thought Sam McIntyre was outstanding for us last week as well, played a lot of big minutes, and Jake Gramble, when he came off the bench, man, he doesn't look like he's 35 anymore. For the Tigers, yes, they hung in last week's game, but really missed Aiden Caesar once again. Just controls the game really well with his kicking game, or as best he can for a Tigers side. I thought Api Coruscant, despite that as well, was also quite good for them. I just, in terms of the tip, man, the Tigers always turn up at Leichhardt, and I have been so wrong about them before in terms of playing at Leichhardt. And I know it's my own team, and I'm trying to remove all bias here, but I just feel like if the Cowboys are going to be serious about making this top eight and being not just making up the numbers, but being a legitimate threat from the bottom half of the eight, I think the Cowboys are a team that can do that. Then they have to win this game. You cannot go down to Leichhardt and lose to the Tigers at this stage of the season, especially with your season pretty much hinging on, the last couple of fixtures that you have. We have a lot of games at home, but this is one that we should go and win away. 13 plus if we're going to be serious. Let's go the Cowboys 13 plus here. For the second week in a row on a Friday, we go to Auckland, where the Warriors will be taking on the Eels at Mount Smart. And over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Eels have the better record. They've won 6 out of those last 10 games, but they have not played the Warriors in Auckland since 2017. And for the Eels, man, it's tough because I actually saw a little bit of fight in that first half. They managed to get out to a little bit of a lead as well, and I just felt like the Storm were always going to come back over the top of them. Like, I never really thought that the Eels were going to win that game. Unfortunately, it's just the kind of common case that you have with the Eels at this point in time. I thought Jake Tungo made a really dumb play towards the end of the half, and that really cost the Eels as well. Whilst I like the fact that they did not move Dylan Brown to the halfback spot, I just really not sure about Dejan Arce being the 7 either. He seems to not really have the kicking game or the nous to be able to play that position on a consistent basis. It's tough because you don't want to see Para doing this badly, unless you don't like Para. But I just feel like the Storm always clinical. Munster had a good return as well. I thought Wishart was still strong despite Munster coming back into the side. Harry Grant, trap and scrap try, and Jarom Hughes. I think there's definitely a point where we have to start talking about Jarom Hughes being one of the best halfbacks in the competition. For me, he's easily in the top 3 this year. I think there's a bit of an asterisk next to Moses. Yes, he played really well in Origin, but he's barely played during the regular season. I'd have him, above Cleary as well, because Cleary also hasn't played that much. And Jarom Hughes has just been quietly under the radar, leading this Storm team to victories. In terms of the tip for this one, I just feel like the Warriors are going to be a little bit too strong for Parramatta. They get Sean Johnson back this week. And just Para... I'd love to see them fight and make it close, so I'm going to go 1-12 for the Warriors. They might even get there in the end, Parramatta, but I'm just not sure it's going to eventuate. I would love a bottom of the table showdown with the Tigers in round 27, so that's what I'm rooting for at this stage. Warriors 1 to 12. Friday night, 8 p.m. in Perth, we have the Dolphins taking on the Roosters. Now, there's only been 2 games played between these two teams, and they've split the margins with 1 win each. Obviously, the Dolphins getting a win in their maiden game against the Roosters, and the Roosters beating the Dolphins earlier this year. I feel like for the Dolphins, they've won 2 out of their last 8 games at this stage of the season, and they are clinging to a top 8 spot. I'm not sure they're going to finish in the top 8 at this point in the season. Their run home is particularly difficult, including games against the Dogs, the Storm, the Warriors, this week the Roosters, and they also have the Broncos later down the line. They finish with the Knights as well, so you'd probably say they might get 1 or 2 wins out of that, and that doesn't really put them in a secure spot. They really needed to beat the Titans last week and just completely drop the ball, literally, in that second half. They completed, as I said in the intro, 4 sets from the 45-minute mark up until the 80th minute, and they only had 7 sets in total in that second half. So just kept giving the ball back to the opposition, and you can't do that at any level of the game. Doesn't matter if the Titans are 15th or 5th. If you give the ball to the opposition, they're going to eventually score some points and develop some momentum. On the other side of the coin, the Roosters, they just scored more points than Manly and made a few errors of their own, and it could have ended up costing them the game, but it didn't in the end. Their prospects get much better this week with Faleti Palga and Joseph Manu due back in this one, and that definitely helps their outside back rotation. They had Jennings come in last week, but I kind of expect him to go maybe back to reserve grade, just with some of the guys they have coming in who have done quite a good job at the start of the season. Palga coming off a suspension as well, so he's not injured or hampered in any way. So he'll be straight back into that team. I just feel like the Roosters get a win here. I don't really see the Dolphins as a top 8 team at this stage, and the Roosters tend to struggle against top 8 teams. They only beat Manly by 4 on the weekend, and Manly were 5th going into last week. So I'm going to go the Roosters 13 plus here. It's a bit of a bold prediction in terms of the margin, but I just feel like the Dolphins, they could pop out a win, but I'm just not expecting it against the Roosters. Roosters 13 plus. Super Saturday starts with the Titans taking on the Broncos at Cbus Super Stadium, and over the last 10 games between these two teams, it's split once again down the middle 5-5. For the Titans, I really feel like they were impressive in last week's game. They didn't give up. They played right until the final whistle, and it's something that the Dolphins have been doing all year, but they seriously, as I said before, dropped the ball. And the Titans just managed to pounce. They got into their rhythm. They had a bit of luck go their way. And when you keep banging on the door, eventually that door opens. And definitely did for the Titans, and they took full advantage of it and getting the win. For the Broncos, man, as Kevy Walters said that they were flat, I don't think they were flat, personally. I think they were out-coached. I honestly think that Kevin Walters didn't really prepare them for any of the defensive structures that the Dogs were going to throw at them, and the Dogs really identified that the Broncos have a very condensed defensive line and just went on the outside of them early in sets. There was a lot of ball movement. Early shift was always on, and Bronson Jerry, Connor Tracy had a field day in this one. Jacob Carraz was outstanding. A lot of their edge players were phenomenal. Jacob Preston had a great day. He shut down Reece Walsh on a number of occasions, really did their homework, and it looked like the Broncos just said, you know what, we'll go out there and we'll get the victory anyway. So I don't really agree with the sense that Kevin Walters said that they were flat. Like, yeah, they didn't perform very well, but I think your fans need a little bit more than we were flat. Um, I think maybe an admission of, you know, we got it wrong or I got it wrong would probably suffice, but it just looked like they weren't prepared for the game. In this one, though, I'm actually going to go the Titans. They're going to be my Hills Cricket Academy lock of the week in this one. Joey from the Ruck Infringement podcast has backed the Broncos not to make the finals this year, and with their season on the line in this one, if they lose it, they are gone. I'm going to back him in. I'm going to say that the Broncos are going to lose this one and lose any chance of making the finals this year. They just don't look up for it at the moment. They look like they're kind of over it, like they've done a lot or played a lot of footy at this point in time. And the Titans, well, they don't give it to you easy, and I'm not sure if the Broncos are ready for something like that a team that doesn't give it to you easy. Titans 1-12. Down to Amy Park we go for the Storm taking on the Dragons. Now, in this matchup, the Storm have the better record. They've won 7 out of the last 10 games against the Dragons, and they've also won their previous 3 meetings in a row, putting on almost 40 points in each game against the Dragons. For the Dragons, I thought they were absolutely lackluster last week. Just didn't really put on a show for the fans out at Wynn Stadium. A lot of happy Penrith fans on the way out, I'm sure. They got a try towards the end of the game that made it look a bit more respectable than it actually was. Faitala Mariner hurt his back, though, however, and he may be out for this game as well. For the Storm, I thought they were very slow to start the game against the Eels. Really took a while to get going, but that's been the case, hasn't it? With the Storm this year, they've just been up and down in terms of form, but they seem to find a way to win games, and they definitely did on this occasion. I wasn't worried particularly about the way they were playing in that first half. Yes, it was a bit closer than I would have liked, but it's the Storm, and this year you got to back them right until the final whistle. In this one, I think they definitely get a win against the Dragons. I know the Dragons can pop out an odd win every now and again, but it was possibly one of the worst games I've ever seen from Ben Hunt on the weekend. Geez, he kicked the ball out 3 times in a row, just really couldn't find any rhythm, and I thought Penrith disrupted him quite well. And I feel like the Storm will do the same thing this week. Storm, 13+. It's Shark Park on Saturday night for the Sharks taking on the Rabbitohs. Now, over the last 10 games, these two teams are once again split down the middle. 5-5 seems to be a key theme this week over the last 10 games between a lot of teams. For the Sharks, going up to Queensland has been one of their favourite things to do, especially North Queensland of recent times, considering they hadn't lost there since they opened the stadium in North Queensland. However, the Cowboys managed to get over the top of them and scored 30 points in the process. I just feel like they're lacking in a little couple of key areas at this point in time, especially in the halves. I know Trindle is doing his best at this point in time, but it's just not enough at this stage. Their defense is extremely lacking on the edges. I thought they were quite vulnerable, especially that right edge with Taulagi and Holmes had, a couple of really nice moments. Val Holmes turning it inside for Taulagi to break through, and that happened on a couple of different occasions. And then the right side with, Felt having the overlap almost every single time. Ronaldo getting caught out. It's just looking a little ticky-tacky for the Sharks at the moment. For the Rabbitohs, I thought they were just outgunned, outmanned on the weekend. Coming up against the Raiders is no mean feat. They have a great forward pack that you really have to contain, and the Rabbitohs just didn't have the bodies to go with them. They should get Cam Murray back this week, and that is good news for them, though. Although Cody Walker complaining about a bit of a calf injury as well, so we'll see if he can pull through. He is 34 years old, and the calf injury seems to be a bit of an older player's injury. I'm going to go the Sharks in this one. I think they bounce back, especially on their home turf. I just feel like the Rabbitohs are running out of troops at the moment. They also lost Alex Johnston, who may have torn his Achilles on the weekend. Sad news for him, but I just feel like the Sharks will get a win after a loss last week. Sharks 1-12. On Sunday, we're out at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith, where the Panthers will be taking on the Knights. Now, the Knights have not beaten the Panthers since 2018, and in this one, they are really up against it in terms of their finals chances. The Knights, they did have a week off, which I guess could help them at this stage, in getting a couple of their star players a bit more time to rest. I feel like guys like Kalen Ponga have just been shoved straight back into Origin, shoved straight back into playing. And on the other side with the Panthers, I feel like they do have some injury worries of their own. James Fisher-Harris went down with a groin injury and didn't return to the field. Dane Laurie with a head knock D was ruled a Category 1 and didn't return either. I just feel like Penrith are one of those teams that no matter who steps up, they're going to get the job done, and they've got a great record over the Knights. Nathan Cleary, once again, I know a lot will be said about him. A lot definitely is said about him, whether he's the best player in the competition. To come back and play your second game and run for over 100 metres, taking the line on, I think he had over 11 runs or something like that as well. Just goes to show you where his headspace is at. He's always looking to attack. He's looking to take the line on, really get stuck back into his work. And the hat-trick is just, trying and trying and trying again, taking the line on. Yes, probably didn't pick the pass as well as he would have liked, and that kind of rhythm will come with time. But the fact that he's already taking on the line is a great sign for the Panthers. I'm going to go the Panthers in this one. I think it's unfortunately pretty simple. I'm sorry, Knights fans, just can't tip you this week. Panthers, 13 plus. And finally, we move to Belmore for our last game of the round between the Dogs and the Raiders. Now, the Raiders come into this one having won their last 9 straight against Canterbury, and they have not lost at Belmore since 1998. So you've got to say that the Canberra Raiders are licking their lips at the side of this one, but once again, as we've spoken about quite a lot on this channel this season, this is not the same Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs that we have seen in previous seasons. They are on a mission this year to break records and really overturn fixtures, and this one looks to be no different. Out of Belmore as well, back in the heartland of the Bulldogs supporters, no doubt they will look to turn it up for them on Sunday afternoon. I've got to say, they were fantastic last week against the Broncos. Just flair, Hollywood football. I was enthralled watching that game. They came out with such an energy, vibrance that just encapsulated the whole team. 40,000 people at Suncorp, no doubt cheering for the Broncos to get a win and get into the finals, and they stamped it out completely. By the end of the game, half the crowd were cheering for the Dogs. You could hear the Bulldogs chants around the stadium. It was unbelievable to see. And for the Raiders, they got a good win as well against the Rabbitohs. You can't take that one off them. Really put on the points. Jamal Fogarty has just slotted back in so nicely. I really thought that their forward pack dominated the collisions as well. Tarpany and Papali'i worked really well in their first stint, and it got the Raiders off to a brilliant start. Went out in front and did not give up that lead. So you got to say, the Raiders, with their impressive record, won't be worried about going down to Belmore, and no doubt Ricky Stewart will have them primed and ready. I just feel like the Dogs at home this year, though, are a different beast. They got their monkey off their back, in my opinion, last week. They got their second win away from home for the season, and they've been nothing but perfect this year at home, and I think they continue it this week. Unfortunately for the Raiders, they were coming up against a bit of an understrength Rabbitohs side. This Dogs team, though, while they are small, they are mighty, and they will beat the Raiders this week. I do expect it to be close, though. Possibly another Matt Burton field goal special. Dogs 1-12. So that is it for this week's tips, guys. Let me know what you think about my tips down in the comments section below. Please share your tips as well. I love seeing those each and every week. Going to be coming out with a few new videos this week, guys, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, I'll catch you on the next one.